There have been many moments and times in life where you come across people who were professional athletes during the day and menaces to society at night. But what if I told you that one of these individuals was an NFL player who was as wicked as they come? Let's get into the story of Robert Rozier, former NFL player turned murderous cult member. Let's get to it.
I'm off a head, so I guess I'm labeled a headhunter. Throw me on the verse and I promise you'll probably last longer. Moving through the masses, I'm crashing the main circuit. Too bad cause I had the plans to be modest, remain closer.
Robert Rozier was born on July 28, 1955 in Anchorage, Alaska. He wasn't very good when it came to school and his books and was unable to pass his exams in high school to earn his diploma. He was a spectacular athlete while in school, though, playing defensive end at an all-league, all-state level. He high jumped at 2.03 meters, bench pressed 375 pounds, ran a 40-yard dash in 4.7 seconds, and had a 3-meter vertical jump. In 1973, he did manage to get into Aberdeen Junior College in Aberdeen, Washington, and got onto the football team there. He played well there and then moved on to play at the University of California, Berkeley, majoring in African American studies. Some of his teammates at UC Berkeley called him the best athlete on the team. Funnily enough, he didn't graduate from either school. But in 1979, he did end up getting drafted by the St. Louis Cardinals in the 9th round, number 228 overall. He didn't last long at all in the NFL, playing only 6 games with the Cardinals before getting cut. The following year, Rozier ended up in the Canadian Football League, playing for the Hamilton Tiger Cats and the Saskatchewan Roughriders. That same year, he ended up back in the NFL with the Oakland Raiders, but only lasted 2 weeks with them. He never saw an NFL playing field again. His life then took an extremely dark turn, like really dark. Life after football for many former players usually looks like going into coaching or training or the likes, but for Robert, it looked like joining a real-life cult. See, he was already a pretty religious individual throughout his life, so when he joined the cult called the Nation of Yahweh, it fit the mode of his life up to that point. Now, let's touch on the inner workings of the cult a bit and what it was all about. The Nation of Yahweh was also known as the Brotherhood and was known as a radical black supremacist group in Miami all throughout the 1980s. This radical group followed the teachings of their leader, Yahweh ben Yahweh, also known as the Son of God. Oddly enough, he was well known in the Miami community as an upstanding gentleman and was very charitable in the community. The mayor spoke highly of him as well, so Yahweh ben Yahweh was in very good company and in very good hands. The Nation of Yahweh, to put it simply, was a black Israelite group and saw, quote unquote, white people as devils. The group was started out of racial unrest and anger after 4 white police officers were acquitted after beating a black motorist. He used that situation, among other ill feelings black Americans were feeling, to amass 200 followers by 1981. He felt that black Americans deserved a religion that reflected their own heritage and power born out of the civil rights movement. Yahweh ben Yahweh welcomed all critics of his movement who accused him of brainwashing and would respond by saying that he was washing brains of white supremacy. The male followers of the group had to be completely devoted and loyal to him, no questions asked. A select group of 10 men were his armed security at all times, carrying sharp machetes and were always ready for any threat of violence. To show that he meant business when it came to his male followers, one time he made them line up and drop their pants, one by one. He wanted to see if they had been circumcised. If they were not, he bent down and performed the deed for them himself. This was a show of control when none of the men balked at this idea, and it grew exponentially from there. But here's where we get into the crimes the group, namely Robert Rozier, committed on behalf of Yahweh ben Yahweh, and they are grisly. The first murder came in 1981, and the victim was a member of the cult who went rogue. In fact, a group of 16 other members went rogue when they thought that Yahweh ben Yahweh had been leading them astray, and he called the group of 16 the hypocrites. He actually put a green light on the members' heads and ordered cult members to kill them. When one of the members actually showed up to the Temple of Love, which was the place where they worshipped and lived and carried out their crimes, demanding to speak with Yahweh, he was escorted out the back by 10 men who then beat him to death with a hammer. They carried his body out to the trunk of a car and his body was later found decapitated. The message had been sent: anybody who defies the cult will die. Robert Rozier went full steam ahead with the cult in 1986, and that is also when he started his killing sprees. 7 killings in total. In order to actually join the cult, he had to kill white people and bring back the evidence, which was the ear of the murder victim. April of 1986 was the month of his first 2 killings. He followed a drunk white male to his apartment, killing him and his roommate with a Japanese knife. Then on September 5th, he and another member of the cult killed a 61-year-old white male named Raymond Kelly who was unconscious, parked in a bar parking lot. They cut off the man's ear to return to Yahweh ben Yahweh, but when they lost it, they returned back to the body to cut the other ear off. At this point, the former NFL player was knee-deep in what he believed in, and this was just the beginning for him and his thirst to officially join the Brotherhood. Just 15 days later, he had found his next victim, Cecil Brown, stabbing him 25 times in retaliation for a previous confrontation. Many of you may wonder how Yahweh ben Yahweh was able to evade these crimes for as long as he did before he was eventually brought down in the 1990s, huh? Well, as I stated earlier, he was a highly valued and respected community member. I mean, he was highly active. He cultivated and ran schools, grocery stores, and apartment buildings. Along with all of his charitable ways, the Nation of Yahweh as a business was worth $8 million at the time. At its peak, the cult was boasted with 20,000 members in 45 cities across the United States. And the members of the cult were deathly afraid and had every reason to be. Yahweh ben Yahweh got away with so many acts of gruesome detail that even when cult members would go to the police, nothing would be done about it. And that includes multiple murders within the cult for defiance. I mean, witnesses and everything were getting whacked, which made more and more people afraid to come forth about what was being witnessed within the nation. On October 27, 1986, the Nation of Yahweh bought a 5-building apartment complex for $480,000. And on October 31st, a man named Anthony Brown and another man named Rudolph Broussard, both residents of the apartment with which they were being evicted from, were shot to death. Robert Rozier ended up going down for one of them and charged with 1 count of first-degree murder. While he was being arrested, he told the cops that he was 404 years old and had no recollection of life before he had converted. For the first 7 months of trial, Rozier was supported by a lawyer supplied by the nation. But when he asked for a different lawyer, the cult excommunicated him. This proved to be a mistake for Yahweh ben Yahweh because soon after, Robert Rozier turned state and gave up a ton of information on him in exchange for a 22-year plea deal, which included witness protection. Rozier ended up confessing to 4 murders, but later admitted to 7. Yahweh ben Yahweh and 15 other members of the nation ended up getting charges of racketeering, attempted murder, and plotting to murder. He was able to evade racketeering charges, but was stung by the court and convicted with plotting to murder, being sentenced to 20 years. He served 18, passing away from prostate cancer at the age of 71 in 2007. Upon release from prison after serving 10 years, Robert Rozier found himself back in trouble. In 1999, he was arrested for a bounce check for $66. With California's new 3 strikes law at the time, it turned what would have been a misdemeanor to a felony. He was convicted of bouncing 27 checks totaling up to $2,200 and sentenced to 25 to life in prison. That is absolutely insane. What a terrible way to go out after escaping the death penalty for committing actual murders. He was denied parole in February of 2022 and will not be eligible again until 2027. As for the Nation of Yahweh, it is headed by Yahweh ben Yahweh's daughter now, and they say that they have completely removed themselves from the black supremacist label they held years past under her father. And that, ladies and gentlemen, concludes our story on Robert Rozier, former NFL player turned murderous cult member. I know y'all, I know it took me a long time to get this video out, but I've been having a lot of positive things going on in life, and I had to take a bit of a step back. But I promise y'all the next one will not take that long. But please continue to like, comment, subscribe if you're new. And I'll see y'all in the next one. Holla.
I'm off ahead, so I guess I'm labeled a headhunter. Throw me on the verse and I promise you'll probably last longer. Moving through the masses, I'm crashing the main circuit. Too bad cause I had the plans to be modest, remain closer.